Did you know that at one point Israel banned arbitrary items like potato chips from entering Gaza? Israel has been restricting food and other aid going into Gaza since the start of the war in October. But let's talk about how Israel has controlled how much Palestinians in Gaza eat and produce since long before that. Right now, children are starving to death in Gaza. The EU and Human Rights Watch have accused Israel of using food as a weapon of war.
This famine is not a natural disaster. It's not a flood, it's not an earthquake. It's entirely man-made.
Even before this war began, Israel had already put in place measures which contributed to 2/3 of people in Gaza living in poverty and 80% of them dependent on international aid. Here are some reasons why. Gaza has been under blockade since 2007. Around that time, Israel's military used mathematical formulas to calculate how many calories and how many trucks of food people in Gaza would need to avoid malnutrition. An Israeli government advisor was quoted as saying, "The idea is to put Palestinians on a diet, but not to make them die of hunger." Israel denied that restricting calories in Gaza was ever policy, but rights groups on the ground said that not enough trucks of food crossed the border. Until 2010, Israel also restricted which consumer goods could enter Gaza. Some of the banned items were sage, cardamom, coriander, and ginger, spices which were critical ingredients in Palestinian cooking. There were also arbitrary restrictions on things like potato chips, chocolate, and biscuits. Then there's been ongoing restrictions on the land Palestinians in Gaza can use for farming. Israel enforced a security buffer zone around Gaza, which runs along the border. If Palestinians venture in, they risk being shot. The problem is 1/3 of the arable land in Gaza lies in this no-go area. So farmers who historically cultivated everything from wheat to citrus trees have lost access to the land. Along the border fence, there's also Israel's frequent aerial spraying of crop-killing herbicide. Israel says the spraying is for security purposes, but rights groups say it happens without warning, and a recent study found that it damaged crops hundreds of meters into Gaza. Then there's Israel's restrictions on the sea around Gaza. Historically, Palestinians have relied on fishing for revenue and food. But from 2006, Israel restricted fishermen to 3 nautical miles from the coast. This led to overfishing as thousands of boats were forced into a small area. In 2019, Israel increased the fishing zone. But there are many reports of the Israeli military firing on the fishermen, damaging and even confiscating their boats. Restrictions on engines and raw materials also mean they can't repair or update their equipment. Then there's the impact of war on farmlands and food chains. Oxfam says that between 2000 and 2008, 112,000 olive trees were uprooted during Israeli incursions. Since 2008, Israel has waged 5 wars on Gaza. During Operation Cast Lead in 2008, the UN found the wholesale destruction of agricultural infrastructure, from greenhouses to orchards, water sources, and dairy farms. And in the wars that followed, they reported the destruction of critical infrastructure and leveling of lands through shelling had become a recurrent reality. The UN says that since October 7th, 1/3 of agricultural land in Gaza has been damaged. More than half of all Palestinians in Gaza, 1.1 million people, are facing catastrophic hunger.